How can you get tens of thousands of followers on Facebook by spending less than $1,000? If I did it, you can too. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Judette and I blog and vlog weekly on business and on lifestyle. So today I wanted to have a chill moment with you and talk about Facebook and building a community through consistent and profitable content. Now, I know the struggle is real and many of you are building brands and businesses online and you are struggling to find your voice and have that voice connect with your ideal customer base. So one of the first things that you have to do when you are building community online is you have to understand, number one, who is your ideal customer. And I remember I was talking to someone who was in fashion. She has a retail store and she was saying to me that her ideal customer was all women. All across the board, whoever came to her store, that was her ideal customer. And I'm like, no, you cannot be everything to everyone. You know, there's this famous saying that there are riches in the niches. And I love that because it forces you to think about who is your ideal customer. Look, I know, for in the instance of my friend, she's selling clothing for women. But what I wanted for her to think about in terms of who her ideal customer was she targeting women over 35? Is she targeting teenagers? Are more women over 35 coming into her store, or is it women under 25? And I think once she understood that, she was able to then zero in and then adopt a voice for either a more mature woman or a younger crowd. Which is not to say if you have one primary voice, you can't have other sub voices. But I think when you are thinking about how you build engaging content, you really have to think about the demographic, the psychographic of your ideal customer. So in my instance, I built a community of over 40,000 women in just under 4 years on Facebook. And for me, the underlying belief that I had was that as we aged, we still had a valid point of view to express that as we age, we were still beautiful. We could still be as ambitious as anybody else half our age. And once I understood that and knew that the woman who I was targeting was either one, super confident about her direction in life, or two, not so confident because society and ads and a culture and media was telling her that she was irrelevant and she was sort of buying into that. So I knew that my role in adopting a voice that represented the woman over 40 was that I had to also, yes, be my confident self, but also act as a guide to the woman who was unsure. And once I understood that, I was able to create consistently a stream of content that mattered to that woman. So I hope you get it, that you cannot be everything to everyone else. And the more that you zero in and you focus on your ideal customer base, your ideal target market, who is your primary customer, the more you are going to understand that customer and the more your brand voice, or your voice, forget brand, okay? So the more your voice is going to be to matter to the person who you are trying to reach. So the second thing that I did when I was growing my community is that I showed up. I showed up consistently every single day. It did not matter if I was talking to an audience of 10 or if I was talking to an audience of 10,000 or 20,000 and now 40,000. Every day, for me, I showed up with the same kind of gusto and passion and fuel that I had to share content along several different trajectories or categories or buckets. So I told content or stories in terms of travel, wellness, food, lifestyle, fashion, and of course, motivation and inspirational business content. And on the Fall 40 platform, at first we started by releasing just original content, and we still do that today. If you look at our platform over on Facebook, you would see that only 90% of the content you view is content that originates from our studio. So whether we are producing video, or we are producing blog posts, or we are doing graphics, it's all original photos using photos or videos or long form articles, written words, using images, ideas generation, whatever. It all originates here and is done here, and it's original thinking. So it really is important when you are carving out a space that you understand, I think, this golden rule, that it has to be a sort like of a 80-20%, that content must come from your beliefs and your values and what you think you can add value, or how you think you can add value to your audience. And then the 20% can come from somewhere else. You can share other people's content. You can engage with on other platforms and take their content and post it on yours. But I think in an oversaturated world of content and information overload, if you really want to stand out, you have to, one, show up every day with original content in a way and in a manner that adds value to the audience that you are trying to reach. The other thing about having community and building content and knowing and wanting to know how to drive the numbers, how to get engagement up, is that I see these social media platforms as just like conversations. And I believe that in this transparent world that we now live in, that conversation, as it was from time immemorial, is really a two-way street. So if you're putting out content and you are not engaging with the people who respond to you, you are not engaging by asking a question of them, responding to their questions, their needs, their concerns, their comments, their feedbacks, their thoughts, then you are really having a Facebook page to talk to yourself, and to me that makes no sense. So I am really focused, and I want to encourage you that if you are about building a community through consistent and profitable content, you have to be able to be in that mode and to be ready to respond when people are talking to you. And one of the tips that I like to suggest is that when you put up a post, to stick around for the first hour. And by sticking around for the first hour, when comments come in, you are able to respond right away. And what happens is that the algorithm works in your favor, and it notices that people are responding and you are responding to them, and somehow it shifts, and then more people enter the conversation. Try that and you will see that it really does make a difference at times, not every single time, but it really makes a difference. The other thing about building community is that you have to have conversations on these platforms. It's not always about you, how great you are, how beautiful you are, what are you doing, and so forth. You have to converse and have conversations with other people. So one of the things that when I first started was that I would use one of the day, because look, time is limited. So I would use one day to post content, and then the other day to engage with other people's content on their platforms. And knowing that, sharing is such a two-way street, you can be sure that once you start to engage with other people's content on their platform, whether you are leaving a comment, whether you are sharing a like, whether you are participating in the conversation, that the people who are receiving your love, I call it like the social love, the people who are receiving your social love are they're going to return it right back to you. So here's another thing that you have to do. It is about planning. So I am super religious about planning my content out, wait for it, 3 months in advance. Now, I know that sounds a lot, but it helps me understand what it is I'm going to say to the people who are following. It helps me to create deliberate and profitable content, and it helps me to be on target every single day when I'm showing up on social media. And I used to be overwhelmed by social media, but not anymore. It is a lot. It is a lot. And it will never stop being a lot. But I am no longer overwhelmed. And that's because I created a social media planner, a book, and I'm going to link it below. And I'm going to put it in this corner, the link here, so that you can see that I really have a system that affords me the ability to ideas dump, to work in the planner at night and think about the content that I'm projecting, to look at my those daily national days like National Pizza Day, National Awareness Day for, I don't know, for anything. And to be able to look at those days and see, do they matter to me? How am I going to create content? Which platforms I'm going to be creating content on? How am I going to take those big ideas, break them down into monthly goals, weekly goals, and daily goals? And it really is a system, this book I created, and I also have PDFs, monthly PDFs that you can purchase. But content planning is the key. Whether you are doing it in a book, and I'm pretty old school because I love to plan my content in a book and then use my computer or my mobile devices to really kind of pump it out in terms of understanding, writing it on my mobile and just sharing it. But when it comes to the actual conceptualizing of the idea, I am old school in terms that I love to have like a pen and a paper, and hence my social media planner, which I think is such an amazing tool, and such great feedback on it. So planning content, if you are serious about building community online, it's something that you should take like so seriously, because I think it is the engine that can really take you off, and in terms of being able to connect with the people who you want to connect with. And I am religious about checking my data. Like, I am so religious that there was a point in time that I was constantly looking at feedback like twice a day, 3 times a day. I've gotten off that machine a little bit because now I think that I can look at my data from a long haul, from a long-term view, and see what's working and what's not. But paying attention to data allows you to see things like what's the best time to post, if that's something that you're into, or who is the audience that's following you, what is their age group. It's so cool the way all these platforms have the data. They're spitting out data. They're telling you the demographics. They're telling you where and when. They're telling you who's following you. They're telling you what time they're signing on. But I think that when you have a long-term view of data, you're able to see things from a long-term perspective, and you're able to understand and to use the insights that these platforms spit out to your advantage. So for instance, on my YouTube channel, I recognized that I was getting a lot of people following me from Estonia and Slovakia. And yes, it was organic, but they're not necessarily my ideal client base. And so what I had to focus on was, how do I create content that when people were searching, so whether it was through tagging or the keywords I was using or my SEO strategy, I really had to understand and fine-tune that. So I was really building a Caribbean-based audience, and then thereafter a diasporic audience, and then of people of the African diaspora, which is where my interest in terms of audience is. So really understanding what the data means and how you can use that data to provide the insights that will drive and fuel your business is extremely important part of building a community online. So I wanted to share these tips because as we enter 2020, I know a lot of us are no longer seeing social media as that thing that, yeah, it's okay, it's cool, but we're not going to bother with it. It's just for the young people. Like, come on. We no longer believe that. We have seen the power, whether Facebook goes away or whether TikTok comes. I mean, TikTok is here, and whether it sticks around, whether Instagram is here for the next 10 years, we know that the way we communicate and the way that we share information about our business or market has changed so dramatically that we have to keep up with the times, and understanding how content matters and how content allows for engagement and how content builds community and how community leads to sales and sales lead to profit is so crucial for your business to expand and get better, and for you to grow and get more profit that will allow you to invest in your business and hire new people and invest in growing it and expanding it. It's so crucial. So content to me is queen. Some people think it's king, and I say it's queen because it matters a whole heck of a lot. So if you like this content and you want to see more of it, let me know in the comment box below what kind of questions you have about content. What are your specific challenges? Do you think you're producing enough, and is your content hitting the right target? Until next time, I hope you have a successful week, and see you next week. Bye. Take care.